Hey everyone, this is Crows, or Eric, you might know me as either, and I am one of the co-owners and technically the founder of Equinox Giants Farms, and today I am going to attempt to do a Russian Orloff educational video. I'm going to move in a second because the Orloffs are currently surrounding me for the most part, so that you guys can actually see more of them. I have Wade currently demanding snuggles, so I'm trapped for a moment. I don't have a script or anything. I'm remembering this all off the top of my head, so if I make any mistakes in my information, I'll try to correct it in the description for the video later, but hopefully I don't make any mistakes besides stammering. Okay. Thank you, Miles. Okay, going to move over here now so you guys can see me and the Orloffs as they follow me. Hopefully the sound works okay. Okay, there. Hi, guys. Hi. So I guess I'll start in the beginning for Orloffs. They're a rare breed. They almost died out about 100 years ago, and it was thanks to Count Orloff. I can't remember his first name. It was something similar to Alexander, but Count Orlov, who was responsible for the Orloff Trotter, a breed of horse, and for the continued existence of Russian Orloffs. He didn't create the breed, he just happened to promote them and love them a lot. He's also why we mostly just have Spangled Orloffs, because he claimed that they were the most beautiful variety, so they were very popular. I am actually more fond of mahogany, but I like both equally. I like the rich color of mahogany, but I also like the spangling. I didn't at first until I had Wade, and because I love Wade, now I love her color. And that's her right here, demanding cuddles. So, the Russian Orloff, as you can tell by its name, was created in Russia. There's some misinformation out there. The Livestock Conservancy has incorrect information for some reason, and we've tried to correct them on it, but for some reason they won't listen to the Russian Orloff Society. So Russian Orloffs were created in Russia, but their roots are in Iran, and I can't remember the name of the breed that we believe they came from, but it was a very tall, very imposing, solid black bird that we believe was supposed to resemble a species of black eagle that's native to Iran. And this breed was a tall, gamey bird, very similar to the Malay or the Asil or Thai game. It was an oriental game fowl, but it was a little thicker from what we know, a little bit fluffier the way Orloffs are. And at some point those birds somehow ended up in Russia, and obviously had to be adapted to the climate of Russia, which is generally a cold, harsh environment where they were developed. So thank you, Sumac. So they also needed to be dual purpose, because having a bird just for show wasn't really necessary when the Orloffs were made some 400 years ago. So being good winter layers was important, and they retained that trait, and being good meat birds. And when they almost died out, just due to lack of popularity, a lot of what was done to keep them in existence got rid of some of their utility. So there's been a movement in several countries by individual breeders to try to return them to a better dual-purpose breed. And they're still good egg layers. When they're in lay, they do about 5 eggs a week, and they're medium-sized eggs. I don't have any examples right now, but actually someone's working on laying right at the moment. I have my breeding hens over there. So I'm rambling, sorry. They were bred to be very cold hardy, and that is why they have the thicker plumage although Wade is a little bit too fluffy. They have the thicker plumage, which is for keeping them warm. And, wow, Iris sounds just like her mother. She's half Sumatra, and Sumatras are very vocal birds. So they have this thick, wonderful plumage, and these very thick manes on their neck. The shape here is called a wool, and it's supposed to look like they basically have a ball hidden under their feathers. Some of mine have it better than others. I've actually only ever seen it mentioned in the Russian Orloff standard and not any other breed, but most bearded breeds have them. It's just this poof of feathers on the back of the neck. So that, along with these massive, fluffy beards, contributes to them being incredibly cold-hardy, and they're clean-legged, so you don't worry about them having circulation issues. Their feet dry easily if they get wet, so no frostbite risk. Miles is just kind of staring at the camera right now, looking a little bit out there. That's just who he is. They also have these little tiny combs that make them really hard to tell if they're a cockerel or a pullet when they're young, because there are no wattles. They have a tiny comb that doesn't really grow at all until about 10 weeks old. But it's all for the point of keeping them very warm, and they have thick feathering. Oops, hi, Orchid. Thick feathering on their faces, so they just, no exposure to cold. They're just cold-hardy birds. Like, they just don't really care about bad weather. They want out in it. They're in today because it's supposed to rain, and mine are not very smart and will stand out in the rain. They aren't likely to get sick from it, but I don't want to risk it, so they stay inside, and they're a little bored, but I'd rather them be a little bored than, sick. So, about 400 years ago is when the Orloff was created, and we have a lot of historical documents that go into just talking about them. We have, I can't remember which museum it is in, but there is a stuffed Orloff hen that is about 300 years old, I believe, taxidermy, and she is what they call today the scarlet color, which kind of just looks like what we call wheaten in most breeds, but a little bit more red. I don't know what the genetics behind that variety are. We no longer have it, but they're trying to recreate it in Russia. So when Orloffs almost died out, we lost a lot of really impressive genetics, a lot of important diversity, and in an effort to save the breed in Russia, they basically were able to grab subpar specimens that existed on just countryside farms as, yard fowl. They were able to take those that were still mostly pure Orloff, or at least close enough to count, and combine them with some other breeds, hi baby, including Pavlovskaja, which I love but don't have because they're very hard to find, which are they're a weird breed. I'll put a description so you can actually type it, because I'm probably pronouncing it weirdly. And so sometimes we get Orloffs that will have feather tufts down their legs, and they just pop up randomly. From two clean-legged birds, you just get toe stubs, sometimes they're called. It's disqualification in the bantams, but not in the large fowl, and I'm really salty because one of my favorite hens, Blossom, who's over here zoning out, she has feather studs between her toes, and she got DQ'd at her first show for it, and she wasn't supposed to be DQ'd for it. But that's besides the point. I'm actually gonna try showing her again later. I'm hoping I'm not going outside for 20 minutes. The camera automatically shuts off after 20 minutes. But a bunch of breeds were crossed into the Russian Orloff, or to try to recreate/preserve the Orloff, and as a result, they changed a lot from what they originally were, and it didn't help that then a couple of other countries got them. So Orloffs from Russia somehow ended up in the USA. We're not totally sure when they were imported, but they were at some point. And then Russia started changing theirs dramatically to recreate what they thought was ideal. which is I talk about it quite a bit on my blog and rambling at my friends in our Discord channel, or server. There's the Russian style, which is a very tall, lanky bird that looks more like a game fowl. They're not very meaty. I'm not a big fan of that type, but a lot of people are. I just, not my preference, breeder preference comes into play. I prefer a bird that's a little bit thicker, not this thick, but and definitely not as thick as Miles. He is a tank, but they're better for like meat and things like that, and I like the wider bodies, which Wade has a very, wide body. Don't know if I'm holding this correctly, which means that they lay eggs really easily and are very efficient at turning food into energy because they have lots of gut room, which makes them just very efficient and easy to keep. Yes, hello. The current Russian style they crossed, I was talking with a breeder a couple months back, and they recently crossed Male into them to try to improve overall type. And the result is a very tall, very lanky, lean bird that's a little tighter feathered. I don't care for the tight feathers on the Orloffs, especially since they still have a wool and it looks a little unbalanced to me. But a lot of people like it, so I'm not trying to bash the Russian type or anything. They're still beautiful birds, they're still Orloffs. I'm just biased in favor of the thicker birds. Which is where we go into the German style Orloff. The German style is not as vertical. Mine are mostly German style. I'm trying to find a happy medium between German and Russian, which is basically what the proposed standard in the US calls for. I think. They're not as vertical, and they're thicker birds, and they have a darker base color. I love them. In my flock, I currently only have one with a lighter base. Hey, be nice to you. This is Sumac. And, I mean, she's a beautiful bird, but I prefer the darker color. Again, that's just breeder preference. I've talked to the club about it, and everyone said, basically, we don't have an actual care for the base color, if it's the mahogany or the lighter base. So it's down to whatever the breeder prefers. I like the rich dark color a lot. I like the iridescence that comes with it, but a lot of people like the lighter. And it's just personal preference. They're a really variable breed right now, and the APA would prefer that they weren't so diverse, because it makes it harder to judge them when they're all very different. I like the diversity, but I also understand that when it comes to show birds, it's hard to judge when they all look different. You want them to be as uniform as possible, generally. A lot of people have a lot of opinions about that. The Germans wanted a utility bird. They thought the Orloffs were beautiful, but they wanted one that was useful, that was good for meat and eggs still. So, and I saw a quote somewhere that was something like, the Russians made the Orloffs popular, and the Germans perfected them. Obviously, that was a very biased statement, and very subjective. So, like, a lot of people prefer the Russian type, a lot of people prefer the German type. I like a happy medium. I don't want to start any Orloff wars. Hey, sweetie. Yeah. So basically, they got into Germany, where they became pretty popular. Not as popular as a lot of breeds, which is why we still don't see a lot of them today. We don't see a lot of heritage fowl, period, because they just a lot of them have died out since the introduction of commercialized breeds, like industrial leghorns and Cornish crosses, Cornish broiler crosses, which aren't very close to Cornish anymore. A lot of the heritage breeds just fell out of popularity because it became less popular to keep for each family to have some of their own birds to raise for meat and eggs, because because now you could just go to a grocery store and get them. It was so much more simple. It was so much easier, and getting into the whole socio-economic aspect of it is probably best saved for another episode. But Orloffs are recognized in the UK, in Europe, and Russia. They're popular in Turkey, in Turkmenistan, in, actually I'm not sure I've seen a Ukrainian breeder, but they're fairly popular in a lot of countries overseas. They're not very popular here in the US. In fact, they're not APA recognized yet, and that's a fight that the club has been working on for at least 13 years now, I believe. It hasn't happened yet, but we have a proposed standard now, and I am breeding to that with mine. At first, the only variety that's going to be recognized is Spangled, but I love my mahoganies, so I'm working on both, and I have a black project started. So that eventually, when they are recognized, we can get right to work on getting the mahogany and the black and the white projects that people have across the country. And in Canada. There are a lot of wonderful breeders in Canada too. So we can get these other varieties recognized eventually. And I've only been an APA member for a year now, so I can't actually help with getting them recognized unless I've been a member for 5 years. So it depends on how long this is going to take to actually get a meet going for them, which I'll talk more on the process of getting a breed recognized in another video. I really have to check to see how long I've left. So I've rambled a lot. So basically, they came from a bird that was created in Iran, that was similar to ended up in Russia, became the Russian Orloff, almost died out, got revived through very desperate means to produce subpar birds, and we've been working with the subpar birds since to get them back to being Orloffs. However, the result of a lot of people having different ideas of what an Orloff should be has resulted in splits between Russian and German type, and you'll see that the UK type is very different from the American type. And when I say American, I'm referring to both. I'm referring to North America in general, both Canada and the US. Hi. I am being bitten by so many birds. I love them. But the result of all these 400 years of cumulative work and almost dying out and being recreated from scratch, basically, are these birds that we have now that are just fantastic birds. They're friendly, they're easy to handle, they're beautiful, they're unique. And I mean, I've heard some judges say, oh, they're just off-brand Americana. They're not. They're very unique. They have a vertical type, you can see. They have a well-spread tail that makes it easy for them to lay eggs. And it's supposed to be at a 90-degree angle to their back. It's of lesser importance right now in my line because I'm working on a bunch of other things. They should have medium to long legs and should be slightly tight feathered, not too fluffy, but are soft feathered still. And they have large, quiet heads. They should look eagle-like in their head, which here's a great example of that. With a heavy beetle brow and a head that shouldn't be too round on top. You can see she's fairly flat on top of her head. She has a phenomenal head. And orange eyes and yellow legs in all the varieties, even the black, which is very striking. And they're just phenomenal birds. I'm obviously a little biased because I love them. Yes. And they're friendly, they're easy to handle. I trip over them all the time because they're just under my feet, always. And they're my primary focus. I've only been working with them since early 2018, so not very long, but it's just, I love these birds, you know, they're really good birds. I try, anyone who talks about wanting a breed suggestion for chickens, I just pop in like, hey, Russian Orloffs, and I mean, they can be looking for a, like, hard feathered Orloffs. It probably gets a little. It's probably a bit of a joke with my friends now, because when they're like, "Hey, I wonder what breeds I should get next," and they see me typing, they're like, "Hey, yeah, I know we don't have Orloffs around here." One of my friends recently said, I see you typing. I don't have Orloffs available, so just calm down." But I'm a little obsessed, but with good reason, in my opinion. Well, I hope this was a slightly educational video and not just me rambling and grabbing chickens at random, although that's definitely what it was. I hope you actually learned something, or at least enjoyed it. Well, thanks for watching. I think people in YouTube videos usually say, like and subscribe if you like it or something, but you do you. Well, let's see how much time I actually have left, or if that stopped recording. Excuse me, kids.